Welcome to
Release Readiness Live.
It is important to watch Release Readiness Live so that you get a snippet of the coming attractions of the functionality that's coming from Salesforce.
We really focus on the features that are going to be most useful and impactful.
With Release Readiness Live, you get the great opportunity to actually hear it from the mouths of the people who spend a lot of time thinking about what exactly you all as Salesforce developers and admins are actually wanting to see.
Your feedback is so important. I think that's one of the most amazing things actually about the Salesforce ecosystem is how involved trailblazers are with evolution of our products.
Is RRL about to start?
Let's get it started.
Welcome to Release Readiness Live from San Francisco. I'm Jillian Bruce, Director of Developer Marketing at Slack, and I am so thrilled to be with you today. I love Release Readiness Live. We have so many new product innovations coming your way in the next release. But before we get into covering those, I need to get into my happy nerd zone and remember that we should only make purchasing decisions based on currently available features and functionality. So now without that out of the way, fully getting into my nerd zone, we are going to thank you so much for joining us because you taking the time to invest your time with us to learn about what's coming in the Summer 24 release means a lot. And we thank you so much for the feedback that you consistently provide us because your feedback is what helps our technology teams build solutions centered around your experiences. We've got an amazing lineup of release readiness content for you. Today might be the last day, but we still have a lot to cover. We're going to start today off with the admin preview, and we're not stopping there. We're going to come right back here at 11 a.m. Pacific with Service Cloud. Now, if you missed any portion of any of the shows this week, we covered sales, flow, developer, CRM analytics. You can catch them all right here on Salesforce Plus on demand. Now we're going to spend the next hour together with our product managers here in the studio in person, who are going to be giving us live demos highlighting the top admin features coming in the Summer 24 release. But it's not just about us here in the studio, it's about you. We want to answer your questions about all these new features. So make sure you chat and ask your questions right here in Salesforce Plus, where we're going to have product experts standing by to give you answers. And we're going to take your questions live to our product managers who are going to be here in the studio to get your questions answered. So first up, we have, I think we were talking about this before, and I think she's been on Release Readiness Live almost 20 times. We have the one and only, the incredible Diana Jaffe, Senior Director of Product Management, who is going to share with us some of the amazing flow tips and tricks that you can now use in Summer 24. So Diana, without further ado, you're a pro. Take it away.
Thanks, Jillian, and hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be back here at Release Readiness Live. Now, some of you may have seen our Wednesday session that was all about flow, but I'm here to give you the highlights in case you missed it. And because we're going to have to go really fast through all of those new flow features, and by special request from some of you in the comments, I'm going to put on my flow goggles because we are going to go at a breakneck speed. These on. All right, so let's get into it. I'm going to start off with a bang. This is our biggest new feature in the summer release. We are now infusing Einstein into flow. So if I go to the demo here, you'll see we have a new option when I'm creating a flow that says, let Einstein help me build. And what it's going to do, it's going to give me some different ideas of prompts that I can do, or I can just go ahead and create my own. But I think it's great to start with some of these prompts because we vetted them. They're really helpful in trying to figure out exactly how to phrase the right prompt for creating a flow. But I'm going to go ahead and put in my own. I'm going to create a screen flow that collects my new opportunity information. I put in some extra details and then creates the opportunity record. So let's go ahead and launch that. Now it's going to take a little bit to think. We got large language model, which means it takes a little while. So you might be wondering, how do I get my hands on this? Or I don't see this in my org today. This is available bundled with all of the different Salesforce Einstein offerings. So if you have Einstein for Service Cloud, you would see this in Flow. If you're not seeing it quite yet, I believe there's still a few kinks being worked out, but it should be coming in the next few weeks. So talk to your service reps or monitor our communications for it to come out. And look at that. We have my new opportunity screen, which I can take a look at. It's got all the different fields that I specified. and we have the record created with all of those fields. Now, one of the things that's helpful is, what if I want to remember this prompt or capture it? We have this little copy-paste sign over here in the corner, so I can copy this and potentially put it, say, in my documentation. We're always talking about documenting your flows, in descriptions, or saving it for later. Or if this didn't work, I can always hit start over and try it again. So that was the demo of Einstein for Flow, but we have a lot of other new exciting features in this release. So I feel like every time we come to Release Readiness Live, there's something else exciting happening in ScreenFlows, and this release is no exception. This release, Repeaters, is generally available. This allows you to create lists of dynamic chunks of information. In the past, you had to create a screen, get all of the user inputs, and then have this little kind of annoying checkbox at the bottom that says, oh, do you want to add another person, another beneficiary, another user? And then it would loop through and you'd have to sort of have a loop. Now you can have that all in one dynamic screen for the user just by putting those chunks. It's super exciting. But one of the things I really like about ScreenFlows is that we always are showing something generally available, and there's usually a beta of something new and exciting to come. So in the summer release, we also have our new little teaser beta of our next big exciting piece of functionality in ScreenFlows, and that is action buttons. So now you can put in a button that calls an auto-launched flow, which can do so many different things. It's kind of overwhelming, all the things it can do. So if you want a ScreenFlow to go call out and do some data, and then come back and dynamically update the screen using all of our awesome reactivity, you can do that. You can do data operations, you can do external callouts, you can kind of do anything and really make your entire ScreenFlow a single unified interactive experience rather than a lot of different separate screens, which I think is amazing. But that isn't all. So I would say we have three big highlights this release. We have Einstein for Flow, we have our new ScreenFlow features, and we are, forgot one more thing before we get to our last feature is I don't have time to nerd out over all of the fun ScreenFlow enhancements, but Adam and Sam, our two awesome ScreenFlow PMs, nerded out with Jen Lee yesterday on Automate This, and they went into a lot of detail. They did demos on all of these new enhancements, answered questions. It was live yesterday, but it's still available on YouTube, so go ahead and check that out if I'm not giving you enough good ScreenFlow content. And now let's show you our last big highlight. Data Transform is officially generally available. This is a new element that we have been working on release after release, getting your feedback, adding to things, and it's officially GA in this release. This lets you do dynamic mappings, transforming of either collections, records, information from external systems, modifying all of that and transforming it using formulas or using sum and other kind of functions. There's just so much here in Transform, and we're not stopping with this release. So if you've been a little wary to try it out because of beta, then now is the time. It's officially GA. And if it's a little overwhelming, Henry did an awesome demo of this on Wednesday, so check out our documentation, check out the video to start getting ideas of all the different things you can do with Transform. Now, we have a lot of really big, exciting things in this release, but I know especially on Admin Release Readiness Live, some of you are busy and you don't necessarily have time to build a lot of new ScreenFlows or build Transform right away, even if we all know you want to. So I always like to pick a few flow-per-re options or a few things that you can use today as soon as you open up the Summer 24 release in your existing flows. So let's check out my top 5 flow-per-re. The first one, and this got a huge response in the comment section on Wednesday, so I know a lot of you are really excited. We've had a long time challenge with handling null or other kinds of exceptions in your flow. So if something's blank or empty, flow kind of acts differently, and you had to put in custom formulas or multiple conditions to capture, is this collection null or is it just doesn't have anything in it and it's empty? Well, we have 2 new functions, is blank and is empty, that solve this for you. So you don't have to do all those extra workarounds. This should make debugging and error handling just a little bit easier. I looked for a single idea exchange item on this and I found like 15 different things people have filed. So I think this is a huge quality of life improvement. In other new exciting things that you can just pick up and try out anytime, we have an all new automation app. This is Flow outside of setup in a standard list view with your record pages, just like you would see for contacts or opportunities or any other object. And what this allows us to do is a lot of exciting things. This release adds search. We also add new categories. You can see Anand demo this on Wednesday. But one of the things I'd encourage you to do is to check this out and give us feedback. When we demoed this on Wednesday, the chat blew up with ideas of things we could add. And now's a really good opportunity for you to go in, give it a whirl, and let us know what else it can do. So we've kind of done an initial pass at this new app with a couple new exciting features, but I think there's a really exciting roadmap, and it's a great opportunity to file things on the Idea Exchange, reach out, give us feedback on what else you want to see in the automation app, and really helps craft the future of Flow on Salesforce. Next up, I know we've gotten this question at Release Readiness before, ever since we released reactivity, and that is the ability to control reactively the read-only and disabled states of your screen flow inputs and choices. So this is one of the things we also finally have in this release. We're able to close that Idea Exchange item, and I know this is going to be a huge help for a lot of you. Coming in at number 4, one of my personal favorites, Scheduled Flows has a couple new improvements in this release. We have new limits. So previously, Scheduled Flows ran against our synchronous governor limits. They now run against our asynchronous governor limits. So that was feedback we got from a lot of you. We were able to make that change in this release. We also improved debug. So you can now select a record when you're debugging a scheduled flow that has a batch configured. And when you go to your debug panel, we list out how many records would be affected if you were running that flow. So helping you debug and kind of troubleshoot your flow before activation as much as possible. And last but not least, we are making changes to and improvements to one of the grandfathers of Flow, one of our original elements, create records. So there's 2 new improvements in this release. One is that when you select an object to create a record in that element, you'll see a list of all of your required fields. So this is something, it happened in Process Builder, and we've gotten a lot of feedback that it's annoying. I create a record, I forget one of the required fields, I go to debug, I get an error message, I have to go back and fix my flow. Now we're going to pre-populate all of those fields with the required thing. But we didn't stop there. We also added new functionality to create records. Another scenario that we've heard about a lot from you is dynamically creating or updating based on whether a record already exists in the system. So we now have a new optional thing you can turn on and create records that lets you check whether an existing record already exists and will dynamically handle whether we're going to update with those changes or create a new record. And we do all of that for you in just that one single element. So with that, that was a breakneck thing. That's why I had the goggles on as we ran through Flow enhancements in summer 24. Jillian, back to you.
All right, well, I want you to flow on over here because we have a lot to talk about, Diana. I mean, my goodness, there's so much happening with Flow, the summer release. So much. I mean, we even had a fun special announcement on the Flow release live.
We have Flownatic t-shirts now available in the Amer Trailhead store.
Yes.
So if you want your own Flownatic t-shirt, we now have it available to order, which is really exciting.
I'm sure they're probably already sold out, so it's okay. But
yeah,
still
there was a little bit of a run on it, I know,
sure.
on Wednesday, so I haven't checked if they're still available, but stay tuned even if they're sold out.
That's great. Well, you shared a lot, and so I know that we have a ton of questions coming in for you, and you're no stranger to the hot seat, so here we go. First of all, we got some love, because there's always lots of love. As a reminder for all of you tuning in, we are taking your questions live. We're going to get as many of them answered as possible, but we also love some shout outs. So we have, well, thank you, Melissa. Melissa says we love Jillian Bruce. Thank you. I love you too, Melissa. And Mark Jones is very excited that they got the goggles.
All right.
So Mark Jones
Mark.
has a lot to say.
Yeah.
And well, one of the things he said, though, I thought was really good is blank plus is empty equals is awesome.
Is awesome. We're going to add that as our next operator.
Yeah, that's good.
Awesome.
Grant is so stoked for repeaters. And Stefan is so excited about schedule flow debug, much needed. Okay, so now we're going to get to some questions.
All right.
Okay, so first question I have for you, Diana. This is coming in from Salesforce Plus. This is from Dia. What can I do to enable Einstein Flow in my org? You talked a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it should be available with other Einstein offerings. It's not sort of a separate offering that you have to purchase. So I think Einstein for Sales and Service, I don't know all of the details, but it should be included as part of that. Again, I think there were a little bit of issues in release. So if it's not showing up in your pre-release org, check in the next few weeks, reach out to support, because there were a couple kinks still being worked out. But it will be available as a beta in this release for all of those licenses.
It's a beta, people. Just
It's
be
a beta.
patient. Be patient.
We're working through some things. It's new. It's exciting. It's a lot of work. And yeah.
Oh, it's so exciting. I mean, I'm so stoked about that. Again, I keep
so
thinking,
cool.
if that would have existed when I was first learning how to build Flow, God, I would have learned so much faster.
Really, it would have made my demos a lot faster too in building some of those.
Einstein, just build it for me.
Just do it for me. Yeah.
Okay, we have another question coming in from Salesforce Plus. This is from Garrett. He's asking, could flow lists be added to a console view? It would be nice to troubleshoot flows with the ability to add internal tabs for test records all grouped together.
That's a great idea. I don't actually know specifically about console, but I do know that there's already some builder kind of hacker folks in the community that have started to build out custom like Lightning components to put on the record page to show things like metadata information. So it might be possible. It's a great idea. I don't actually know if it's an extensible thing or not, but that's a great idea to add to the list. I love that.
Garrett, post an idea exchange.
Yeah.
You got a fan already, so to champion it for you. Okay, we've got many more questions. Okay, one of the questions we have for you. Now, Diana, I got personally very excited for like the automation app, right? Being able to control everything in one view. It's amazing. That was just a comment for me. I'm excited about that.
I'm excited too.
We have a question about Transform. So with the newly GA'd Transform, would you recommend admins go in and replace existing loops with Transform?
So it's going to depend a little bit case by case, but I would say you don't have to run out and do it if a flow is working. But if you're already touching the flow, it is a great opportunity. If you can do it in Transform, there are several instances where Transform performs better than loops. So it'll have the same functionality, but sometimes you're going to get faster and better performance doing it in Transform. Again, it depends a little bit, but if you can do it in Transform instead of a loop, do it. If you're refactoring, do it. You don't need to run out and give yourself a giant to-do list, but yeah, opportunistically, go for it.
And if you're building something new, do Transform.
Transform,
There you
absolutely.
go. All right. I think we have time for one more before we get going to our next section. So the next question I have, this one, Diana, is coming in from Salesforce Plus. This is Mahesh asking, does duplicate check also work with Salesforce Field Service mobile flows?
I'm not positive.
Yeah.
Sometimes their features can be a little bit different, so maybe ask that in the Trailblazer community or double check that. It should be available in almost every process type, but sometimes I miss some things about the field service because I know they're a little different, but probably yes, but if not, don't come for me because I'm not positive.
All right, so great question, Mahesh.
Great question.
Yeah, great question.
Stumper.
If you didn't get the answer you want from Diana or our SMEs in the chat, make sure to ask that in the Trailblazer community.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, we have plenty more questions coming for you, but
Excellent.
we're going to continue to move on because there's lots of great admin stuff coming in this release. So next up, we also have someone who's not a stranger to Release Readiness Live, an admin favorite. We have Elizabeth Martin, Senior Product Manager, here to show us what's new with Lightning Platform. And we're going to get to know a little bit about how to manage permissions more efficiently with a bonus section that she's covering, all related to user access. So Elizabeth, take it away.
Thanks so much, Jillian. I'm Elizabeth Martin. I'm the product manager for the Salesforce Records Experience teams, and I'm excited to talk to you today about the latest innovations coming for Lightning Platform. Now, I just want to start off by saying that every single feature that I'm going to be talking about today started off either as an idea exchange item or direct feedback from all of you. We really appreciate your engagement with us in sessions like this at TDX, at Dreamforce, and through our Trailblazer community because it really helps us make sure that we are delivering what's going to be most valuable. With that, let's go ahead and dive in. The first feature that I would like to touch on is conditional tab visibility. Now, this feature has gathered almost 38,000 points in just a little over 2 years since it was first created. Just think about that velocity in terms of an idea exchange item. What this will allow you to do is set visibility rules for tabs just like you can for any other component in Lightning App Builder. You can set visibility rules based on record data, user details, or device type. A couple of the use cases that we've heard for this from all of you. The first one is to set visibility rules for tabs based on where a record is in a process. As an example, what stage an opportunity is in, or where a case is in a case process. The second key use case that we often hear from you is the ability to set visibility rules for tabs based on user type. So you might have some users that only, there's a set of fields that's only relevant for that specific user type. And then you might have another tab where you have general fields that are relevant for everyone. It really allows you to customize how that page is laid out and make sure everybody's seeing what's relevant for them with nothing extra that's going to create additional mental overhead. Now, the next feature that I'm going to talk about is the blank space component. This is something that we continue to hear from you over and over. In addition to the idea exchange item, we heard requests for this at Dreamforce and TDX. People always came up after sessions and asked about it. This is really a feature parity item from the page layout. So this is something that was available in the page layout, and we heard from all of you that it was really important to bring this over and have it available in dynamic forms as well. For anyone not familiar, what this allows you to do is just add additional spacing in between fields. So it gives you some additional control over how your pages look and feel and space things out in the way that you would like to. And then the last feature I'll touch on for Lightning Platform is the new field setup step. This is another feature that I've heard from so many of you as being important. If anyone is not familiar, and when you set up a new field, previously there were 4 steps, and the 4th step allowed you to add that new field to all of the existing page layouts with 1 click. And what I heard from all of you is that it's really important to have this for dynamic forms as well. Otherwise, it's a little bit cumbersome to try to remember which Lightning record pages have dynamic forms and go and find all of those and add the field one by one individually. So we're essentially just bringing feature parity from that page layout feature. We're adding an additional step where you can add the field to all the existing Lightning record pages with a single click. And with that, let's go ahead and jump into a demo. So I'm going to demo from Lightning App Builder. I'm currently on a contact record page. And the first thing I want to call out is that when I select the field section component that I'm going to be working with, I have align fields horizontally selected in the property panel on the right-hand side. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to allow me to make sure that the field heights are going to match when the fields are adjacent so that everything is perfectly in alignment. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab a blank space component from the field component section in the palette on the left-hand side. And I actually just want to provide some additional spacing to have those phone numbers show a little bit lower in the page and separate them out from the rest of the fields in that top section. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is you can see I have this specific section that's for marketing information. It's actually not relevant for our sales users. And so what I can do now with conditional tab visibility is I can set a conditional visibility rule based on the user type. When I jump in to see this visibility rule, you can see that I first have the basic fields available. I could set a rule based on that. But in this case, I'm going to jump over to advanced, and I'm going to go into the user, go down to the user profile, and I'm going to select the profile name. Because these fields are only relevant for marketing users, I'm going to make sure that profile name contains marketing. And that's all we're going to do for this demo, just showing a quick and simple example. Let's go ahead and save this and take a look at this page in the runtime. When we jump back to the Lightning record page for the contact, we can see that our new blank space component is spacing out those phone fields. And the second thing we see is that because I'm logged in as a system administrator, we're not able to see the marketing tab. Now, just in case you don't believe me, I'm going to jump over to view this from a marketing user. So I'm currently logged in as Amy Smith, a marketing user. You can see her profile is marketing user. And we're going to jump over to the contact record from her perspective. Now let's just refresh this page to make sure that we're seeing the latest and greatest. And we can see that we have the same configuration we just set up. We have the new spacing, and we have access to that tab with the marketing details. And that wraps up our first demo.
Elizabeth, people are going crazy about the tab the tab visibility control. That is amazing, amazing demo. But I know people are also going to want to know what's next. So what else do we have on the roadmap?
Absolutely. We have two features that I'm extremely excited about coming up for the winter release, what we typically call our Dreamforce release, specifically on the records experience side. The first is conditional field formatting. This is an idea exchange item that's been out there since 2007. It's since captured over 37,000 idea exchange points. And what was asked in that original idea exchange item was the ability to add custom visual indicators to fields based on their values to call attention to those fields on the page. Now, we've heard of many different use cases from customers. Obviously, there's been a workaround that's been out there for a while that we've heard from you is not necessarily the most ideal. What we'll be delivering is the ability to do this in a low-code way. There are two use cases that we hope to tackle in the next couple of releases. One is to be able to show icons with specific colors. So as an example, if you wanted to have a red icon with to indicate negative customer sentiment, you wanted to call attention to that on the page, you'll be able to do that, set that up in a low-code way in Lightning App Builder as of the Winter 25 release. The second thing that we hope to enable, and this won't come in winter, but we're targeting the following release, is the ability to add highlights conditionally as well. And we're looking both at the edit mode as well as the view mode. Now, the second feature that I'm extremely excited about for the Winter 25 release is the Dynamic Highlights panel. As you can imagine, what this will allow you to do is to configure the Highlights panel from directly in Lightning App Builder the same way that you configure fields for dynamic forms. As you configure those fields, you'll also be able to add the conditional visibility rules just like you can for dynamic forms. But one of the things that I'm most excited about for this feature is the ability to add those conditional field formatting rules that we're allowing you to use in dynamic forms to the highlights panel as well. One of the things that we heard from all of you is it's really important to be able to bring those all the way up to the top of the page. Now that's the two upcoming features I wanted to highlight for records. Let's talk about Salesforce lists. If you noticed, today we didn't cover any list features that were coming out in summer. And the reason for that is that the list team has actually been working extremely hard to bring out list views to LWC. Now that that work is complete, they're going to start working on delivering the top 3 idea exchange items over the next couple of releases. The first is list view multi-column sort. This will allow an end user to set up sorting criteria for list views based on up to 5 criteria. As an example, you could sort opportunities first by stage and then by close date or amount. In the spring release, they also plan to bring list view default sort as defined by admins as well. So admins will be able to define those same rules but as a default setting for the entire org. And then lastly, in the spring release, they plan to release related list inline edit. And that's it for the Lightning Platform roadmap.
That's it. That's a lot. You shared a lot. I know people are going to be very excited, especially about some of those list improvements coming. Thank you for that. But Elizabeth, we're not done with you. I actually hear you're covering for someone who is usually also on RRL, but she cannot be here. So Cheryl Feldman, the one and only, shout out to Cheryl. She was going to come and join us and share all the amazing innovations about user access. But Elizabeth, you volunteered. So go ahead and you have permission to cover user access and permissions.
So I'm really sad that Cheryl isn't able to be with us today in person. However, do not hold back with your tough questions because she is available in the chat and she is ready to help out with all of those. So with that, let's go ahead and dive in. The first feature that I'd like to touch on is user access policies. Now, we heard from you all of the great feedback during our beta, and so we're really excited to be able to bring this to GA. This is closing out over 6 idea exchange items, covering over 23,000 idea exchange points. As a quick recap, what this will allow you to do is automatically assign entitlements on user create or update based on criteria that you define. The next feature that I'm going to talk about is one of the new setup features. Now, if you weren't able to catch the Future of User Management, a session that Cheryl and Ben ran, I would highly recommend that. It's available in Salesforce Plus, and in that session, you'll be able to learn more about their vision for how they're going to fix setup, starting with user management. Now, this is one of those features that's one of the first that's going to have some of the new components. It's the user access summary. What this will allow you to do is see which user permissions, object and field permissions, custom permissions, and group and queue membership a user has with just a single click. And next, the summary that inspired Cheryl to start adding summaries to everything, the permission set and permission set group summary. We heard so much great feedback from all of you during the beta that we were able to bring this GA. This is now moved inside our new summary component, so it has a new UX. And we've also added some additional permission sets and permission set group information to this summary with this release as well. And then the last update here from a summary perspective is the public group access summary. This will now allow you to see, again with a single click, which sharing rules, report and dashboard folders, public groups, and list views a public group will give access to. Last but not least, before we jump into the demo, there are 2 new permissions, the ability to monitor login history and freeze users. Now, we won't be able to cover every feature in the demo today, but there is a blog post out that gives a lot of detail summarizing all of these new features, so I definitely recommend going to check that out. With that, let's go ahead and jump into the demo. We're currently on a user record, Chloe Doodle, and we can see that Chloe has been assigned a number of permission sets and permission set groups. So if I want to understand what she has access to specifically, do I need to click into each of these and see all the details? Not anymore. There's now a View Summary button that I can go ahead and click on directly from her record, and with one click, I'm now able to see which user permissions, object permissions, including read, create, update, delete, field permissions, custom permissions, public groups, and queues she's a member of. Now, let's go back to Chloe's record, and we can see that she has a permission set assignment for account and contact management. Now, again, when I jump into this, if I really want to understand what this permission set gives access to, do I need to click into each of these to see that? I can now go ahead and view a summary for this as well, so I can see everything that this gives access to in just one click. I can see the related permission set groups, user permissions, object permissions, field permissions, and custom permissions. Now, the last thing I'll show is we have a public group here that Chloe's a member of. And with this public group as well, I can go ahead and click to view that summary, to see the owner-based sharing rules, criteria-based sharing rules, dashboard and report folders, the public groups, and the list views that this gives access to. And that wraps up our demo for user access.
That was amazing, Elizabeth. Thank you for covering that. I know people are so excited. Again, I mean, Cheryl has been such an advocate for that admin experience because she was an admin before joining Salesforce, and it's wonderful to see all that thought going into those new innovations that really make it easier for admins to manage all the things. So thank you, Cheryl. I know you're in the chat. Thank you for answering questions. But Elizabeth, we're not done with you because I know that Cheryl's team is working on a whole lot more too. Can you give us a sneak peek into the roadmap?
Absolutely, Jillian. So just a quick recap of Summer 24. We have that improved admin experience with user access policies GA. And then we have all of the new summary components for user access, permission set groups, and public group access. We also have those 2 new permissions, freezing users and monitoring login history. In winter 25, we'll be continuing to improve the the admin experience. We'll be adding additional capabilities for troubleshooting user access, and we'll be adding a new description field on public group and queue. And then in spring 25 and beyond, you can see the full list of items here. But in short, what we're really going to be focusing on is just to continue to close out those idea exchange items that you all have been voting for.
That's great. Amazing work that I know the team is working hard on. Elizabeth, great job. Thank you for stepping up and sharing all that information on behalf of Cheryl's team. So come on over here and let's chat about it. There are so many people that are excited. And I know that, Cheryl, you're in the chat so you can see these, but we've got Hallelujah from John. We've got This is Glorious from Nicole. Fantastic, a real time saver from Denise. I'm ugly crying in my coffee, says Leah. Well, hope you have a napkin nearby. But Elizabeth, that was great. So thank you so much for sharing that. As a reminder, ask your questions in the chat, because now we've got Elizabeth here in the hot seat, ready to answer some questions. There was also a lot of love for what you showed. We have conditional tab visibility is great from Mark. Love this one. Love this feature of tab visibility from Steph, from Pamela. Conditional field formatting is awesome, says Sean. And 2 words. Jackpot. Love the conditional field formatting. Let's go, says Ben. So lots of love.
Amazing. So excited for that. Yeah.
Okay, but let's get to some questions. Okay, so first question I have for you, Elizabeth, is will conditional field formatting work with page layouts?
That's a great question. We are focusing on making it work for dynamic forms in the upcoming release, and it won't be available for page layouts.
Okay. All right. Well, there we go. We got some answers. And we have some questions coming in from Salesforce Plus as well. So let's get to some of those. We have a question from Wada on Salesforce Plus. For conditional tab visibility, does it also apply to the homepage tabs?
That's a great question. I believe if you go check the idea exchange item, we've actually marked it partially delivered, because right now we are focusing on record pages. It's actually not my team, it's a team adjacent to me. So as Diana said, don't come after me. But my understanding is right now it's for record pages only and not app pages. So I assume it will not work for the home page.
Okay.
It's a good question.
But if you all really like it, put it on Idea Exchange. I think of all of the Release Readiness live shows that we do, this is my favorite because it's like the most amount of Idea Exchange points delivered, because your teams really pay attention. And it's wonderful to see the payoff there. And it's really lots of Idea Exchange love. So more questions for you. This question is from VAMC on Salesforce Plus. Having conditional tab visibility is a great thing. Is it having any user fields? Are any user fields available for conditional visibility?
So when you go into, the way to get to the user fields is to go into the advanced section. And this works just like any other component on the latent record page. So even if you don't have a pre-release org or something that's on Summer 24 yet, you can still go and test this and see which fields are available. But from my recollection, yes, when you go into that advanced setting, you click on user, you do have access to all of those fields.
Okay, great. We're going to take a couple more questions here. This is, you know what, this is a really good question. This is from Monica on Salesforce Plus. Do we have detailed trailhead content for all these new features?
That's a great question.
We're working on it, I bet.
We are working on it. It actually takes so much work, you wouldn't believe, to put out a new Trailhead module. And so I don't know that we're going to have a new Trailhead module with all of this in it yet. But it is good feedback, and it's good for you to call that out, and we can make sure we're working on that.
As someone who's built modules, I completely understand the effort it is. It's a lot to make sure that you've got all the content correct, that we on the back end are able to check everything. But I'm sure they will be part of future trails.
Absolutely.
So, excellent. Okay, I think we have time for maybe a couple more here. We have a question from Mark Jones, the one and only Mark Jones. Again, having a conversation with Mark Jones during RRL, an RRL viewing all-star. Since we have the blank space component for dynamic forms now, can we expect to see the ability to customize tab direction come to dynamic forms?
Customized tab direction. I see. So tab right to left
I think that's
rather
what he's
than
talking
top to
about.
bottom.
Yeah.
That's a good question. We haven't had too many requests for that, and so we try to go based on what you all think is most important. I believe there is an idea exchange item out for that, and so I think it would be great if anyone listening today thinks that's important and something that they would really like. If you can go vote on that idea exchange item, that would help.
Okay. Mark, if you really care, you can launch an idea exchange campaign. So that's great. Well, thank you so much for being in the hot seat. We're going to get back to plenty more questions for you. So thank you so much. And thank you for covering another team as well. I know that's not the easiest thing to do. But we've got more greatness to talk about for admins in summer 24. And again, a familiar face to RRL. In fact, you just saw her a couple days ago. We're going to welcome back Angela Lee, Director of Program Management. You might remember her again, like I said, from the developer preview that we had, and she's back for more on Einstein Copilot, but for admins this time. Angela, take it away.
Thanks, Jillian. Hi, admins. My name is Angela Lee, and I'm a product manager on the Einstein Copilot team. Since we announced our GA last month, Copilot has taken off, and I'm so excited to share the features that we have coming this summer. First off, we have recommended actions. So how many times have you stared at that open prompt box, whether you're in Copilot or ChatGPT, and wondered what you should ask it? Well, I know it seems really daunting sometimes and overwhelming when these powerful tools are there for us and we can really ask it almost anything. So that's why I'm thrilled to announce the GA of recommended actions, which is a feature that's really near and dear to my heart. With recommended actions, your users can get started really quickly with the click of a button and start getting those productivity gains that we all want from Copilot. And now we can also create even better, more engaging experiences in Copilot with rich text support. We know that it's really important to get those accurate responses from Copilot, but sometimes we need links to look at citations and get even deeper into the information source. Or we want to be able to quickly navigate to a relevant page. Now, with rich text support, we can do all of that in the Copilot panel. All right, switching topics quickly, I'm so excited to announce the beta of our newest feature, standard and custom topic support. We know that Copilot is the most powerful when it's specific. And so now with topic support, you can define Copilot to solve specific use cases and jobs to be done by defining really specific topics for those things that you need to be done with your users. And your users are going to see those productivity gains immediately since you're going to be creating topics to solve their specific use cases. All right, and for our last feature, I can already hear the cheers around the world. We have a beta of multi-language support. And we're so excited to be able to announce this because now Copilot will automatically be able to understand your user's locale, and if it's one of those 6 languages that we support, it will be able to respond back in that language. So if you don't see a language listed on there that you want, admins, please let us know and start putting it in the idea exchange. All right, that was a lot of talking, so let's start seeing this live in a demo. Okay, let's first talk about recommended actions and rich text. So as you can see here, I've already asked it a question using one of our recommended actions, and they all live in this tray here, and it supports all of our standard out-of-the-box actions today. So right away, I'm on this account page, and let's say if I'm a new AE, I want to know what opportunities are part of this account, and I want a quick summary. All I need to do is click the button. And that means I don't have to spend a lot of time making sure that I'm crafting that perfect prompt. So immediately and within seconds, I can get a really nice summary about this particular account. And the great thing is I have a couple of other things that are available here. You can always look for more. All right, so I have now this great response from Copilot, and I also have these rich text links that can take me to an asset page, and I already can see some of the products that are listed here, or if I need to talk to the VP of Sales, I have that person listed here as well. So that just provides a lot of ease of use, as well as it saves me some time because I don't need to go and scroll through a bunch of different pages if I need to find the information I want. All right, up next, let's talk about language support. So here I have my locale. It's a default to English, but maybe I want to test out my college level Japanese. And so I'll go ahead and select locale in Japanese, and then go ahead and select Nihongo, which is going to be my default language, and save. All right, so now everything is translated over into Japanese. Let's go ahead to Copilot. I'm going to refresh, so now it's picking up those changes. And again, now everything is in Japanese. So let's go ahead and fire off a query. That translated me just how many accounts in this org are assigned to me. And so now Copilot will be able to take that, translate it, and then it should be giving me back that same robust response that I would expect in English as well. So you'll notice that everything else is also in that translated language as well as in the builder. So, all right, okay. Well, this is live because it didn't do exactly what I wanted. It interpreted the request, but gave me back in English, which probably means I forgot an API there. But if it was working, you would also get that response, which is 42 accounts that are assigned to me in this org, but in Japanese. All right, switching to my last topic and favorite one, let's talk about standard and custom topic support. So here I am in Copilot Builder, and this particular Copilot is focused on restaurant reservations. And as you can see here, I already have a few topics assigned. And as you'll notice, all of these topics are focused on a specific job to be done. So we have how to deal with an escalation, how to change existing reservations, etc. So let's see how easy it is to create a new topic for this Copilot to answer. All right, so first we're going to start with a label where we're going to create a general frequently asked questions. And as we know, descriptions are so important in Copilot. And so this particular topic is going to answer questions about restaurant reservations, how to use points, account issues, or any other company-related information. And for this scope, I want to make sure it's defined really clearly. And for this topic, I only want the Copilot to utilize knowledge articles that are within my knowledge database. And then finally, I need to have some rules and guardrails because I want to make sure that Copilot is answering those questions consistently every time. So in this case, I have two rules. One, to always tailor those responses based on the specific user query or account details that they might have already provided us. And then finally, never to provide generic troubleshooting steps. I really want it to focus on answering questions. So with that, I'm going to submit a query about how do I activate dining rewards towards a reservation, which is a pretty standard question, I'm sure, that most restaurant reservation places get. And what Copilot is doing behind the scenes is taking that utterance and going through and seeing which topic does this most likely fit towards. And boom, we can see that it says, okay, this sounds like a frequently asked question, and the action that I want to assign to it is answering questions with knowledge, is one of our standard out-of-the-box actions. And then it executes through the LLM and gave us this really nice, robust response with all the different steps that it takes to apply rewards towards a reservation. And so that's how you can use topics to guide the Copilot with really clear instructions and assign actions to solve any use case. But wait, there's more. We have one final thing to talk about, which is our roadmap. And we have a lot of really exciting features coming throughout the summer across all of our teams. We're really busy shipping more standard out-of-the-box actions for you across all the clouds, and then building even more capabilities into our platform. So that was my last topic. Jillian, what was your favorite Copilot topic that you saw today?
Well, again, you make me hungry when you talk about restaurant reservations. I won't get enough breakfast this morning. But no, that was great. I mean, I love seeing Copilot in action, and I think especially from an admin perspective, it really unlocks so many capabilities to drive efficiency and help users be more self-serve. I mean, it's next level. when it comes to building apps.
Yeah, excited.
Yeah, so people are also very excited, by the way. As a reminder, all of you who are tuning in, please ask your questions in the chat. We've got our amazing product managers here ready to answer. Also, huge shout out to Cheryl Feldman. I know that she is answering a zillion questions in the chat right now because all of those features that Elizabeth, you shared for her has gotten people very excited. And we'll spare you from trying to answer for Cheryl. She's doing all the answering herself. So let's start. Angela, we've got some questions for you. Angela, we are going to start with a question here about, oh, here we go. Sorry, this is a live show, guys. You have asking so many questions that my question sheet is very, very populated. Okay, let's talk about custom actions, Angela. Can custom actions be configured in the recommendation action tray?
Oh, good question. Not yet. It's coming probably towards that Dreamforce release timeframe because right now we only support standard actions. But I've heard this a lot from feedback at TDX, at World Tours. So yeah, we're working on that, and it's coming soon.
That's great. Again, taking action on feedback from customers. I love it. I love it. Okay, we've got another question for you, Angela. This one is actually coming in from the Salesforce Plus chat from Vamsi, again, asking more questions. Do we have anything on the roadmap to integrate Einstein Bot and the Copilot so that bots could be more advanced in self-learning?
Oh, good question. Well, Copilot itself we started with the bots runtime and it's built on top of it, and it's just obviously now different and more advanced. But yes, I think maybe part of the question is, are we incorporating some of like that chatbot features or functionality? And the answer is yes. So we have already in a closed pilot with what we're calling digital channels, and that's probably more of what people expect from like a chatbot experience. And then kind of going forward, we'll continue working on more machine learning. So I know what we see a lot is still like configurations and admins to like building custom actions and things like that. And we wanted to provide that configurability, which is really important. But yes, as we continue moving on, we're like building in more AI-based recommendations and more machine learning so that you don't have to spend as much time configuring things.
I love that. As a configurer and builder, that's like music to everybody's ears, right?
Yeah.
Okay, another question for you. This is kind of about, when to use the right thing. So how would you think about the differences between using topics and actions?
Yeah, so I would think about it as like actions can be assigned to multiple topics, but your topics should be discrete enough that they solve one particular use case. So we know for actions, probably across a lot of things, you're going to have to look up a record or look for related lists and things like that. So I think actions can be tied to multiple topics, but topics should be pretty focused on solving one job to be done.
Okay, I love it. Thank you for the clarification. We got so much love coming in from the chat. I'm going to do a couple more shout outs here. We have, let's see, Marcella is very excited. She says that's so needed for multi-language users like me, the multi-language support suite. We have, I think Era was talking a little bit about, Elizabeth, some of the things that you were sharing. Era says, you all just saved me hours for an initiative I'm working on. Thank you.
Awesome.
Let's see. Oh, Betty Floor is also excited. She says, Einstein Copilot recommendations are a very good incentive for data quality efforts. So again, good data makes AI work so much better, right? Okay, we're going to get back to questions now. So now that you are all on the couch, I'm going to pepper them around to all of you. All right, so Diana, we're going to come back to you. This question is from Chad. He asks, do scheduled flows need to be saved as the latest version in order to count against async limits?
Great question. The answer is yes. You do need to have the latest version, which I believe is 61 or somewhere around there. So yes, you do. That's a great question.
That's great. I know we talked about versions previous.
Right. There's also some of the screen flow things I also recommend. But yeah, some of the older versions of scheduled flows were missing some other limits. So if we backported that, we could wind up in a hairy situation. So we had to kind of enforce certain newer limits, which also meant that we could relax these limits.
Okay,
make a better experience.
Thank you. Thank you for the good question, Chad. Elizabeth, we're coming to you. Let's see here. Here we go. Elizabeth, coming to you. So your question is, what will the limit be to the number of fields for the dynamic highlights panel?
That's a great question. So there is one of the idea exchange items that's out there that we're closing is to increase the limit on the number of fields from 7 to 10. And so the new limit will be 10. I would love to hear feedback if there's a need for a bigger limit. I know some use cases, such as in call centers, you're spreading that out over a much larger amount of real estate, and you might want to be able to have additional details. Would love to hear that feedback, and we could reevaluate that limit if so.
I was going to say, it's supposed to be a highlights panel, right? You don't want to have too much in there. But to your point, if you've got a larger format that you're working with, I guess
Absolutely.
that would make sense.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you for explaining that. We've got more questions coming. Okay, Diana, I'm coming back to you. This question is from Meryl. The question is, what does Flow check for determining the required field?
I believe it's an API. I mean, the engineers could tell me which one, but there's sort of an underlying metadata or API that's letting us know what the required fields are. So,
excellent. Okay. There's
yeah,
stuff
it's
going
like
on
like
behind
the
the
tooling
scenes.
API or the something API. I can't keep track. I do know there was
okay.
discussion about this with the engineers because when this was implemented back in Process Builder, there were some bugs found with the API and some special cases. My engineer showed me a snippet of, if it's person account, we have to do some extra stuff. So there may be, so in general, we're going through one of the kind of commonly available APIs, but that doesn't mean for every object there isn't a little bit of.
Well, person accounts are always special, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean,
There's always
they cause all kinds of fun.
There may be. So yeah, if you run into anything like that, definitely file it with support. Let us know. But yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, we got lots of love coming in. I'm going to just do a couple more shout outs here. Paul is asking, are there goggles in the Trailhead store? People want to be Flow.
Those goggles came from a very common online store, unaffiliated with Salesforce.
Doesn't sound like Trailhead.
They are not branded or purchased by Salesforce. They're purchased by me.
It's okay.
So.
People create your own cosplay.
But I do know some Flow Nautics out there have also gotten similar goggles. They are pretty readily available if you search for aviator goggles on the internet. Let's just say.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Carol has some love for you, Elizabeth. Big thank you for required fields on Create Records. That is exciting. I guess that's kind of for you, actually, Diana, but it's for everybody. Okay, we have more questions. So here we go. We've got a question coming in. Or Angela, this is actually coming to you. How do you think about how you would use each tech in custom actions, like Prompt Builder versus Flow versus APEX?
Yeah. Well, good that we have a Flow expert here. We were just talking about this yesterday. How do we use flows with Copilot? But so I really think it just depends on your specific use case and then also where your data lives. I think for data that lives outside of the Salesforce ecosystem, I think most people I see use APEX to bring that external data in. And then if you already have a lot of automations in Flow and you think a chat, conversational AI is a better way to interact with it, then definitely use flows. But the most powerful thing about custom actions is that, it kind of allows you to reuse a lot of the technology that you've spent time investing in and building, and then wrapping that into a custom action and being able to use it in Copilot. And also, wherever your data lives, just make sure that you're able to call it in the right way. And the same with Prompt Builder.
Okay, I like that. Thank you for the explanation. All right, Elizabeth, I'm coming to you. How many active user access policies can I have after it goes GA? Do you know the number? I think it's a Cheryl question, but
I believe might be 200, but I would double check with Cheryl in the chat.
Cheryl, correct us in the chat if that's wrong. Okay, let's see here. We've got more questions. Diana, I'm coming back to you. This is a question about the amazing automation app. Yes. So this is a question from Mark on Salesforce Plus. For the automation app, I've noticed that the field to select which record a flow is related to is only linked to campaigns. Will that be changing anytime soon to be linked to objects like contacts?
I don't know where that is on the roadmap. I know kind of a lot of the initial driving force for the automation app was unlocking some things with journeys and campaigns. Mm-hmm. So sometimes those features come a little earlier. So I would guess it might be down the line, but I don't know exactly when or where on some of that. So that's a balancing act for that team going forward, because there's some pretty specific requirements that we need to do around campaigns, but then there's also the whole universe of things that all our flows could use. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, Angela, coming back to you. Let's see. Oh, this is a good question, actually. It's kind of related to some of the stuff I know Cheryl works on, but how does Einstein Copilot honor data access and visibility?
Oh, good question. So, and we get this a lot also because there's, concern that maybe a user who doesn't have access to specific actions or data, that they would be able to access it through Copilot since we use the same one across all of our different apps. But at the fundamental level, we always will respect user access and policy. So whatever user permission sets or access that you already have for each user, we're going to respect that first. So if they don't have access to a service action, they won't be able to use it. It'll just gracefully error out.
Sorry, can't help you. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, and again, that's kind of like one of the big value props of the overall Salesforce platform, right? Is like you build it once, you set up those accessibility policies or whatever the overall overarching strategy is, and it applies to everything that you build on the platform, right? So excellent. And also trust. Trust is very important, especially when it comes to all of our amazing AI features. Okay, we have some more love coming in. Era says, what an amazing start to our weekend. I agree. What an amazing start to the weekend. We also have, this is from Sarab. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. On Salesforce Plus, they say game changer, conditional field formatting. Wow.
Love to hear that.
Also, we have from Sean. Sean says, OMG multi-column sort, huge. And we've got, let's see, one more. Shelly is very excited. Shelly says, yay, field visibility filters based on user type. Woohoo! That's been the only filter I've wanted, and I couldn't get it to work with the existing field filters. So, very exciting. I'm glad you're looking forward to that. Okay, we've got more questions coming in here. Let's see, Diana, I'm coming back to you. This is another question from Vancy. Is there any option to update the existing record in the flow if it finds the already existing record? Do we have the option to choose the fields and update on the record?
Having trouble following the exact phrasing of that question.
I think the question is like, is there an option to update the existing record if it already finds the
that's exactly what
record?
That feature does. So what it does is it gives you sort of a search or a filter to find criteria, and then there's 2 or 3 options. Like if it finds more than one, do you still want to do it? And then it'll dynamically, and then it'll take the fields and either create them new or update them.
Okay.
Based on whether it finds something. So that's basically what the feature does.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hopefully, if I didn't answer the exact question, put it in the community and we can follow up after.
Yeah, and again, a reminder, if there's a question that we don't get to answer during the session, either in the chat or live, please make sure you ask that question in the Trailblazer community, because that's where we will have experts standing by and we'll make sure that you get an answer. Okay, Elizabeth, I'm coming to you. Another question. So this is coming from Rich on Salesforce Plus. He says, love the coming enhancements. I've always wanted to freeze the highlights panel so that the fields always show at the top, even when the user scrolls down the page. Is that a possibility?
Not in the upcoming release, and I believe there's an idea exchange item out for that as well. Would love to get additional votes on that. I do want to, and I'm just kind of testing my memory here. I believe there's a pinned region page template where you may be able to pin the top region and have the highlights panel there. But I haven't tested that recently. It might be something to look into. That might be a way to get to it.
Okay. Good recommendation and good question, Rich. Thank you for that. Okay, we've got more questions. Angela, I'm going to come to you. You kind of hinted at this a little bit earlier, but can you really kind of dig into the difference between bots and copilots?
Yeah, great question. And I had to think about this myself when I first started on the Copilot team. I was like, what's chatbots? Like, it's just talking to you. But what you don't see behind the scenes is that with bots, there's someone who's coding all of those different ways that a conversation could go. So if you think about the last time you talked to a call center for, your cable company or something like that. You're like, oh, okay, I started out asking about my bill, but then somehow I ended up upgrading my service and adding cell phone and all these other things. And basically someone has to go and say like, okay, if I started billing and then they mention maybe upgrading and they have self-service, then like, let's go this other way. But with conversational AI, you don't have to code each and every one of those things. It just with natural language processing, it will understand and then be able to interpret all of those different rules and then turn that into code behind the scenes.
So it basically saves, from a builder perspective, saves a ton of time because you don't have to think about all of those different pathways and possibilities.
Correct, exactly. All that reasoning is already built in.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's great. The advantage of using an LLM, right?
Yes, exactly.
Excellent. Okay, we've got more questions coming in. As a reminder, please keep your questions coming here in the chat because we are answering. We've got quite a bit more time to go through, so you guys are still in the hot seat for a while. Okay, I am going to come back to you, Diana. Let's talk a little bit about screen flows. So what components in screen flows support the new read-only and disabled functionality?
I believe it's all basic inputs and choices. So that's, if I remember what the doc said or the note that I wrote to myself on that question, I think that's the right answer. But if Sam or Adam's in the chat, they can correct that, or we can double check that in the documentation.
And I think Sam answered that a little bit in more detail. She actually listed off all of the ones
I think if you
flow
log back in on Wednesday, they answer that in more detail. But yeah, I think it's basic inputs, choices.
Excellent. Thank you for that. We have more love coming in, so I gotta share the love. So Grant says he's so stoked about repeaters. Which
I am too.
I think everybody is. It's worth repeating.
It's worth repeating.
And on that note, Mark Jones, again, thanks Mark Jones for tuning in. He says, I honestly feel that repeaters are within the top 5 updates to Flow in my entire time since 2020 using it.
Wow.
So,
and Mark knows Flow, so that is quite the compliment.
That is quite the compliment. And then we've also got some more love. This is a different Mark. Says conditional tab visibility is great. So very excited about that. And then we've got some more love coming in. We have, Leah says multi-column sort is on the roadmap. Heck yes. So it's exciting. And then we've got Andrea just says on LinkedIn. Thanks for watching us on LinkedIn, Andrea. She says thank you all for this amazing information. So I agree. I second that. All right, let's get back to some questions here. So let's go, Angela, I'm going to come back to you. You showed multi-language support, which, by the way, great job handling. Live demo. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think I'm not on 61 for the API. It's like, 58 or something.
That's okay. See, and that's why we do it live, everyone. This is not pre-taped.
This is real. No, you know it's real.
Let's talk a little bit about which languages are going to be supported.
Yeah, so I'm just going to do it off the top by the 6, and it's FIGS is the mnemonic. It's so French, Italian, German, Spanish, and then Japanese.
Okay. Well, you showed us the Japanese, which is great.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for all the work that your teams are doing to do that. I know that really matters to especially our global audience.
Yes.
So it's wonderful. Okay. We've got more questions coming in here. Okay. We've got a question. Those actually look like questions for Cheryl, which I'm sure she's already answered in the chat. Let's go back to, Angela, I'm coming back to you again. Here we go. What's the quickest way to get started with Einstein Copilot?
Well, it's actually super easy. You just go to setup. If you have the right license, which I can't tell you all the details off the top of my head, but if you have the right license, if you go to setup, you look for Copilots, and then you can really enable it that way, and then you'll be able to access the builder. You have all of our standard out-of-the-box actions, and then go from there. I believe we have quite a few trailheads around this as well. So, and I know we have a dedicated site, but I don't remember the URL off the top of my head.
Yeah, there's a lot of AI enablement that I know everyone's been really rallying behind and getting on. There's also, we have, if you want to get hands-on with Copilot and you don't have the opportunity, we have the AI Now Tour that our Salesforce developer team is running, and they're like, I think they're going to like 15-something cities in the next month. And so, and also there's, I think, all of the local user groups are doing like basically AI meetups and presentations. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's a great reminder. So we've been doing at TDX, at our world tours, but just in general in different cities, we have our hands-on workshops, and we've got great feedback about it because it's really 2 to 3 hours where you're in person. We'll walk through step by step of like how to set up Copilot, as well as prompt and together with Prompt Builder, because that's where you get a lot of like additional value. And then and on top of that, we have the virtual hands-on workshops, because we got so much good feedback about it. We want to bring it to you. So yeah, just stay tuned. Stay on the developer page or the admin page, and then we'll be announcing more of those, and then sign up for them if you have the opportunity. And I know we're having one in a couple weeks in San Francisco, which I will be there, and then Carlos, who is also a Release Readiness Live
fan favorite.
So yeah, and then we have one in the Bay Area in the coming weeks.
That's great. That's great. Again, lots of opportunities to get hands-on. I know it's new. I mean, it's a lot of new stuff to learn, and it's kind of a new skill set to build. So it's wonderful that we've got multiple ways to get hands-on. It's fun.
It's fun.
I like to play with things to get to know them. So let's hands-on is the way to go. Okay, I'm going to pivot a little bit. We have just a few minutes left, but I want to kind of talk bigger picture about kind of where your product areas are going, and kind of looking. You shared a lot of roadmap, which is wonderful. We love that. Again, forward-looking statement, but kind of big picture. Few releases down the line, kind of what are you most looking forward to in terms of where your product areas are going? Like, what innovations, what big differences do you look forward to having come to light in the future? Angela, I'll start with you.
So I think where we are with Copilot right now, where we got a lot of like the basics there, right? Like summarizing and drafting an email. I think that's where I would categorize it's like we're being reactive. Like, you're asking us to do something. I think the next step is like, okay, let's be proactive. Like, let's give you Copilot should do some things for you that we know based on your engagement with it or what your use cases are. It's automatically summarizing things and saying, hey, like, I did this for you. Like, do you like it? Yes or no? And then finally, I think a lot of companies and a lot of other places are thinking about this, but like, how do we go fully autonomous? So one of the questions earlier is like, when you're going to have more like just automation, and so where it's doing things on its own. And that's like longer, bigger picture where we would want to go. And then adding more of those like AI, machine learning elements so that we're spending less time configuring things.
I like that. Freeing up the time to think more and less,
just
building the details.
Exactly.
I love that. That's great. Elizabeth, how about you?
Absolutely. So we've been on this path to really make sure every user is seeing exactly what they need to see, when they need to see it, and really bubbling up the most important things. As we continue further down that path, I think we're thinking really critically around how do users interact with records at a fundamental level, and like all the way down to, do they even want to like look at a record page, or are there different ways that they want to be able to bring that information directly to them? That's one of the things that we're thinking about. And then also from an admin perspective, how can we think about generatively building pages or giving more guidance to admins as they're building pages to allow them to surface the pieces of information that's most relevant based on other orgs and what they're doing, and also based on what data is available in the org.
I love that. I mean, everybody, you can have all the greatest data in the world. Unless you can see it and work with it and access it easily, it's kind of, what are we doing? So
Exactly.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. All right, Diana, give us a little automation inspiration here.
I think when I look at a lot of the features, there's kind of an underlying theme or bigger problem we're tackling, which is around kind of the growing complexity and connectivity of automation of what people want to do in a low-code environment. So we released HTTP callout. Now we have data transform, so you can take in more complex data information from external sources, from data cloud, all of these different things, and kind of looking at automation as then the glue to then use repeaters and data table and those things to display more complex data in screens or do more behind the scenes. So I think when I sort of look at our overall roadmap, or when we talk about this kind of more strategically, the story that I think binds a lot of these together, and that I'm really excited to see what we do next on is fleshing that out. There's a lot of kinks to that, and there's a lot to make sure that it's still very easy to use, which has been one of the kind of hallmarks of Flow. But how do you introduce complexity without exploding everyone's brain is a really fun challenge.
Do complexity, but do it simply.
Make it easy, but do more. More power, easier. So that kind of balance as we continue to grow Flow, I think, is what's really fun about being a product manager here and working on it. So.
Okay, well, I want to thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for sharing all the amazing innovations that your team are doing, and also just thank you on behalf of especially the admin community. What you deliver makes a huge difference in terms of how they're able to do their job and really serve their users and make their company successful. So on behalf of everyone, thank you. And thank you all so much for tuning in. Now, if you have a question that you did not get answered, please go on over to the Trailblazer community, ask it there. We'll make sure you get an expert answer as a follow-up. Now, if you want to learn more about how to get ready for the Summer 24 release, you have amazing resources available to you, especially as admins. You can go to my favorite website, admin.salesforce.com, where you can get everything you need to know about Summer 24. Now, we've got even more release readiness coming your way. We've got one more show coming up in just a little bit here at 11 a.m. Pacific time with Service Cloud. And, you know, as we wrap up Summer 24, you're not going to want to miss it because there's a lot of amazing service innovations coming your way. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time in the cloud.